Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw's Count Out. It's the top 10 show in podcast form where we get beefy, lengthy discussions about things that we can rank and put in a top 10 list. This week, of course, because the era of Vince McMahon is done with and we're firmly in the McMahon-Helmsley era, or I guess it'd be the McMahon-Con-Levesque era. Obviously, when creative regimes change in any given company, you would think that, the superstars at the top or at the bottom might end up sort of changing places because there are favorites. They play favoritism based on who they like, Larson.
Well, I think that's a way of looking at it, yeah. And especially with Triple H now heading creative, it's obvious that there's people that he likes. Mm-hmm. There's people that we have described as Triple H guys. We're already seeing Tommaso Ciampa, now Ciampa, on Raw, see some benefit in his own booking ever since Triple H took over. He's got a U.S. title shot coming up this next week on Raw, prior to Triple H, and I don't know what, if anything, they had planned for him under Vince. He was just Miz's henchman.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is predominantly a Triple H thing, pushing him more to the fore. But it's just one example that we've seen so far of Triple H really liking a superstar and then pushing that superstar. We also saw him bring back Dakota Kai, bring up Io Shirai, the main roster, put them both with Bayley for this new faction. Mm-hmm. They're going to be a major focus of Raw going forward, but we thought, heck, there's a lot more people that we think will probably benefit now that Triple H has the book. So that's what we're going to count down today.
We're heading into, I guess technically we're heading into week 3, but really after SummerSlam is when we really saw fully, okay, this is what and by the way, this is being recorded even before SmackDown, so it's entirely possible. And yes, we kept Ciampa, Kai, and Shirai off this list because we've already seen sort of the fruits of that. We've already seen that bear out. Obviously, we knew Ciampa was going to be a big deal because, even though it was sort of reported by Fightful Select that Ciampa was impressing people backstage, he seems to have adapted really well. Like under when he sort of remained from NXT 1.0 to 2.0, he did everything they wanted them to do. He moved to main roster. He did everything they wanted him to do there. And apparently Vince McMahon liked him, but I don't know if he ever would have moved out of the shadow of The Miz, even though Vince McMahon liked him. We all know that Triple H loves Tommaso Ciampa. Going back to NXT, he was one of the vital pieces of Triple H's big story, the Ciampa Gargano stuff. And so, it's obvious he is immediately benefiting from this. So he's not on this list. We want to take a look at other people who could benefit from Triple H being in charge. So let's go ahead and kick this thing off. Number 10. Asuka. Now, she was so much of a favorite of Triple H's that she went undefeated in her time in NXT, even though there were plenty of people who they probably could have chosen to use Asuka to get them over. They never did that. She ended up vacating her title there in NXT because she had cleared out the division, and in kayfabe, they had cut a deal with Raw, I believe, to bring her up to main roster. I
think she suffered an injury too. Was one of the reasons she had to vacate the title.
Okay.
I have some statistics here for you. She had the NXT Women's Championship for 522 days, went undefeated for over 900 days. At the beginning of her WWE career in NXT, all the way until she faced Charlotte at WrestleMania 34. I think it's where she took her first loss.
Then remember they made a deal.
That was the following year. It was actually 35. Sorry.
They made
following year, I think.
They made kind of a deal about Asuka breaking Goldberg's streak as well. And to be fair, she has been treated just fine on main roster. I mean, with exceptions, I guess if the only caveat is
it was 34. Apologies.
She hasn't been treated as well as Charlotte. Then that's sort of a really, that's not terrible. Although you and I think a lot of people think that Asuka should have all the titles and she should be considered to be up there with Charlotte. Maybe now.
Absolutely.
Under Trump, she's been champion of both brands. She's been tag team champion. She's
won the Rumble.
She's been run the Rumble. She won Money in the Bank, and that immediately was morphed into Raw title. She's done everything except for a couple little things here and there, namely, like you mentioned, beat Charlotte at WrestleMania, and maybe under Triple H, we'll start to see Asuka maybe advance up to that level where it's kind of clear she is on the level of Charlotte within the fantasy realm of WWE.
Yeah, even when she got brought up to the main roster, there wasn't the feeling. No one seemed scared that Asuka was coming to the main roster.
Yeah.
She was undefeated in NXT. She dominated that division.
Yeah.
And yet it was like, oh, all right, everybody's lining up to be her first opponent. And there was no sense of fear from anybody. In her first match against Emma, it should have on a pay-per-view. It should have been a squash match. It wasn't. And Asuka's had a main roster career that anybody would be proud of. It's just that sense of nearly invulnerability that she had in NXT didn't carry over to the main roster. And I understand from a creative standpoint, you got to do things a little differently, but that's been kind of like the one thing missing from Asuka's tenure on the main roster for the most part.
Well,
and part of that is being up there with the likes of Charlotte in terms of being kind of like final boss tier in the women's division, and I understand she's new to the main roster, build up to that point, but I mean, once they announced that she was coming, like people should have been, oh man,
well, by that point, I do think that there had already grown a disconnect between NXT and main roster, and she was one of, maybe not the first, but one of the first call-ups where you started to get that sense. When you had Finn Balor and Kevin Owens established, and Sami Zayn established such a great precedent for the NXT call-up. I mean, you had the Shield, but they were hardly the same people that we saw in NXT. Like, it was really Balor and Kevin Owens that really gave us all hope. It's like, oh my gosh, this is a big, big deal. And then when Asuka came around, it should have been that, oh my God, this is terrifying. But it seemed, in retrospect, it seems clear that Vince started to think of NXT as, okay, this is lower in the pecking order. They are not on par with the main roster stars, and thus that's why people weren't necessarily afraid of her coming up. Like you said, people were sort of, trying to draw straws or whatever to get a shot at Asuka. And yeah, like she beat Emma, but she wasn't like sort of the dominant fashion. It wasn't the big splash that it really should have been. And I think one thing that she has also been stuck with is just too often there's been a lack of stories for Asuka. She has been treated in many cases like a big boss and sort of a default, she's been sort of like a Bret Hart type champion where it's like, okay, Vince knows he can rely on Asuka to be the spotlight on any time she's on TV. And Vince clearly really liked Asuka, but just not as much as he liked Charlotte, because he would give Charlotte all the stories. He'd give Becky all the stories, and Asuka really wouldn't have too many. And so it was very much like Bret Hart to Charlotte's Hogan, to carry on that metaphor, I guess. But yeah, under Triple H, you have to wonder if, and I don't think for a second that, Triple H's best friend, Ric Flair's daughter, is going to take a back seat maybe to anybody, but hopefully he can find a way to mix it up and elevate Asuka to that point where she is another big, big deal who gets stories, who goes through transformations, who develops some complexity. Because honestly, whenever she's on screen, she steals the show. She, to this day, is, whether it's her dancing around in the ring, her creative use of misting people, just her awesome wrestling ability, any of that stuff. She is absolutely terrific. And I don't know if it was with Vince McMahon, sort of, he felt that there was maybe a language barrier, a promo barrier. He's been known to feel that way. Triple H never cared about that stuff. Asuka is more effective at telling a story with, her words, her body language, her presentation, everything. She's more effective than most people on the roster. Triple H understands that. Vince had a very limited view of how people communicate. Triple H doesn't, and so I'm hopeful that Asuka is going to benefit from Triple H being in charge.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Let's move on. Number 9.
9.
The Judgment Day.
It still bothers me when there's the in front of Judgment Day.
So taken apart, each member of the Judgment Day.
Judgment Day, yeah.
Finn Balor.
Triple H guy.
The Damian Priest.
Yeah, I think he's a Triple H guy.
You cannot look at the picture of Triple H
the
celebrating just outside. He wanted to be in that hot tub with Damian Priest and the Honeys.
Sure. Well, I mean, Finn Balor was the beneficiary of the 2 Sweet at the end of Raw 25 or whatever it was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was him in there.
Oh, made man. A made man. Yeah. Absolutely.
And
obviously,
then, of course, Finn is the Triple H guy. And then Rhea Ripley. Yeah.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me? She's the epitome of a Triple H gal, I guess. She is metal incarnate. That Triple H loves Rhea Ripley. So you would think that taking, you put them all together, it'd be like a Triple H super group. Well, it's sort of the opposite of where they're coming from under Vince McMahon, because they were more of a clown show. Yeah.
There was nothing terribly metal about the presentation other than what they individually brought to the table.
Yeah.
They were booked, as you mentioned, as clowns, especially when Rhea was out hurt. When it was just Finn and Damian Priest, this is how Vince McMahon apparently approaches booking of heel factions specifically. Is they generally can't win unless they cheat, and then when they lose, they look like absolute idiots doing so.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and then they have a tendency to lose a lot. Now, Judgment Day wasn't booked into the ground as badly as, say, Retribution was, because really, since the very beginning, the very launch of Retribution, that thing was done. No chance of getting that thing over, unless they really focused on building them up as a legitimately dominant faction, which they never did. Once Mustafa Ali took the lead, if they were running through the opposition, getting wins, getting championships, then yes, you could turn that around. But based on how it was launched, no. There's a lot of star power in Judgment Day. And as we saw at SummerSlam, they're getting a bit more of a metal entrance. They got a pretty damn metal entrance.
Yeah, they did.
At SummerSlam. Now it's focusing on booking them in a way that they're actually a threat in WWE on Raw. Yeah. Otherwise, if they pick up a random win here or there, but otherwise look like damn fools eating L's,
yeah, right.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But considering that all 3 members of Judgment Day, Triple H is a huge fan of, you got to think their fortunes could turn here any minute.
And it's really easy to do. I understand that Edge is going to he'll probably end up having a match against Finn Balor as sort of like his big thing. Although he speared Dom, and maybe that's going to change the story, him inadvertently spearing Dom. Maybe we'll get a bit more complexity to this particular story. But if they didn't go that route, if you just want to go the simplest way possible, Edge can still get that win. But if you give them a 25-minute no DQ street fight, just don't wear jeans, last man standing, something like that, where maybe somebody draws some blood. Maybe they do. Maybe they go a little bit overboard with the violence, because honestly, anybody will be on board. Everybody marks out for violence. People like people wrecking things. And if Judgment Day, just like we saw with the Mysterios, Rhea grabbing Dom by the top of his head, and if you continue those little details, because she did it again, this on Raw, she grabbed Dom by the top of the head and then crushed his head in between her thighs. It was awesome. And as long as you have Judgment Day do cool stuff and rack up wins, then you'll be fine. But they do need to do that. I mean, if they targeted somebody along the lines of like a Bobby Lashley or so, although I think they have different plans for Lashley, but somebody on his level, I think it's really going to make an impact. But really, all you really have to inject Judgment Day with is just a lot of violence, and people will love that shit. They'll really like it.
You know who Judgment Day should go after?
Who?
they should go after Riddle after his feud with Seth Rollins.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Especially if Riddle, which I expect him to eventually lose the feud with Seth, they can think, oh, here's somebody who might be willing to join us. Here's somebody who listens to the fans. Here's somebody who listens way too much to Randy Orton. Let's get in his ear and see if we can bring him aboard.
Yeah.
And that could be an interesting feud.
Yeah.
That could be, especially Judgment Day, yes, they will ultimately lose the feud to Edge, but between the first match and last match, they got to get some wins there. If there's a six-person tag match or some sort of tag match, Judgment Day needs to win that.
Yeah.
Judgment Day needs to get some wins in this feud. Sure, Edge will beat Finn to close out the feud, but in between, Judgment Day needs to get a ton of wins. And then continue telling interesting stories. Let Finn be Finn.
Yeah.
Heel Finn is awesome.
Well, really,
even when he was a tweener in NXT, it was a lot of fun. Let him show that personality.
What you really need, you need Prince Devitt. That level, and we never really got that in NXT. That level of maniacal, of just of frantic, chaotic energy. And let Damian Priest ease up a little bit on the villain thing, It's like, let him be chill Damian Priest, but a dick,
Yeah.
Let them be closer to themselves. Let them do what they want to do, but just have them be bad guys doing it. Because the sort of, holds up the microphone, all you people, bow down before
guys, stop doing that.
That stuff is so cheesy and nobody cares about that. But if you look back at Finn Balor and his Bullet Club days, they were just dicks. They were just a bunch of assholes who came in chopping, the roving reporter guy who wanders into their locker room and people at the restaurant. So just sort of let them be, instead of having AJ and Finn reform a Bullet Club, just let Judgment Day sort of emulate what made Bullet Club cool, just because they're just dudes that are just a bunch of dicks, and they wanted to run the place. And have Judgment Day do that, maybe change up their branding a little bit from sort of like, because right now, like, I don't know, from SummerSlam, he had that big gothic Grim Reaper guy. That's sort of that look. I appreciate that, but it's also kind of dorky. Give him a logo and some shirts that can, because Judgment Day is a cool name. Give him some. That's all right. Give them some shirts and a logo that they can wear. They can put in a Hot Topic, some shit that people. Yeah, that's what they got to do. Hire some. Cool
designers. I don't trust WWE to design a shirt that looks cool enough that it would fit in Hot Topic.
Well, that's the other thing that
Bullet Club and stuff.
That's a whole other conversation. They need to do. They need to Triple H needs to bring in some metal designers, man. That's what he needs to do. Look at this. It's great.
Let's take a break here. Get a word from our sponsor, Raycon. Steve.
Yes.
You know me. Yes.
You're Larson.
I am Larson, and Larson likes music. I'm sure you know this. I'm sure you also know that I listen to all sorts of different stuff. But lately, I've been listening to a lot of Run the Jewels, and they're sounding better than ever thanks to my Raycon wireless earbuds.
That's awesome, man. And Raycon's everyday wireless earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever. They've got a great in-ear fit thanks to optimized gel tips, and they've got a couple of different modes. Noise isolation mode for I want to block out the outside world and rock out to Steve Thunder's theme, Sad Last Days by The Observer. Or awareness mode when I'm listening to a podcast or music on as background audio when I'm out running errands.
I'm a huge fan of Raycon's 3 sound profiles that match up my audio experience to whatever I'm listening to. Say I'm listening to a podcast. Well, then I put my Raycon wireless earbuds on the pure sound profile. If I want to listen to some shoegaze, I switch over to the balance profile, or if I want to run the jewels, I'll switch to the bass profile. And with my Raycons, I can listen all day because they offer up to 8 hours of playtime and 32 hours of battery life.
And Raycons are priced right. You get quality audio at half the price of other premium audio brands. So go to buyraycon.com/raw today to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/raw to score 15% off. buyraycon.com/raw. Oh, man. Anyways, let's move on. Number 8. Theory.
Theory's got it pretty good right now.
Does he, though?
Just came off of winning the U.S. title. He's got the Money in the Bank briefcase. He has a story.
Well, he does now. But, I mean, that story is basically, it's open season on Theory because Vince McMahon's gone. That's a story now, and that's a story that is only there because Triple H took over. So Before that, his story was, I'm going to take selfies with people. That was like the only thing he really had. And so does he have it good now? Yes. Do you believe in any way, shape, or form that this dude would have successfully cashed in on anybody?
You mean if Vince was still in charge?
Right.
Well, I mean, he had a year.
Yeah, he had a year, but did you see like the creative direction on Theory was not headed in the right direction?
Here's the thing. Based on creative, no. Based on the idea that Vince really, really liked him, I wouldn't discount the possibility that he would do something like that to pop a rating or shock the audience.
Sorry, I should have.
Would it make sense creatively?
That.
No,
yeah,
not at all.
That's what I meant. You know, like would Theory cashing in, nobody would have cared about it.
No.
And so under Triple H, the idea is, hey, look, we know this guy has talent. Triple H knows he has talent. Look at his work in the way. Now you have to get him to the point where people give a damn about him and where we think this guy is an actual threat. This guy can actually cash in, maybe not on Roman because I don't know who could cash in on Roman. But, I mean, hey, aim for the moon. Aim for the skies, you know? Like, aim as high as you can.
You know, at SummerSlam, if he had done it there, it would have made sense because Brock and Roman were destroying each other, you know? And they told the story there of someone who had no idea what they were doing because they've never been in that situation before. Now, if they could replicate something like that, I don't know, next spring, after Mania, after Roman beats Brock, or sorry, The Rock, yeah. Because I assume the story right now is open season on Theory because Vince is gone. Now he has to learn to survive in this environment. And not just survive, thrive. And part of what we saw at SummerSlam is him failing. Now, can he learn from that failure? I'm assuming that's the story we're going to get going forward. But we'll see. I don't know. I mean, it all depends on how they book him. Is he going to turn the corner here and actually start getting some wins? And realizing now that there's a massive target on him because nobody likes him, that he's going to have to change up what he's doing? Is Dolph going to take him under his wing?
Well, let's bring this because we're talking about Triple H and people benefiting under this. And the idea is under Vince McMahon, Theory was going nowhere. And I'm not sure.
Creatively, he was going nowhere, but he was going places seemingly because Vince liked him.
Right, yeah, I know. But then you end up with
things.
You end up with, you know, and I know Roman was like, he was a draw even when people didn't like Roman, but you get people bitching about Roman because creatively he was stale. If Roman had never insisted on becoming a heel, where would he be now? He'd be the same stale-ass Roman Reigns that everybody got sick of and ratings would continue to dive. The idea here is, under Vince McMahon, was Theory going anywhere in terms of cashing in? Yeah, maybe. But it just would have been another situation where this dude's like 25 years old. We would have had like, 20 years of under Vince McMahon, assuming he lived until he was, whatever,
96.
Yeah, whatever.
97.
And under Triple H, I'll put it this way. I never got the feeling that Vince McMahon understood what Theory has to offer.
No, he didn't at all.
Triple H does.
Absolutely.
And I believe that that's why Theory will not just cash in successfully, but actually have something interesting going on there.
Yeah. I pose a question because I'm guessing a lot of people will see Theory on this list and think, what? Theory's already doing pretty well for himself. How could he benefit more? And you just described how he would.
Well, there you go. Let's move on. Number 7.
7.
Shinsuke Nakamura.
Now, we tell the story all the time. We were at TakeOver Brooklyn the night he won the NXT title. In my years going to wrestling shows, I don't know if I've ever seen a wrestler as nearly universally beloved and as over as Nakamura was in NXT at that time. Triple H knew how to make Nakamura a massive star.
Yeah. Because
he realized that Nakamura is a massive star.
Yeah.
You put him in the ring, you let him tell stories in the ring, and put on awesome matches. That Nakamura's got a ton of charisma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just let him do his thing, and he will get over.
Yeah.
Triple H understood that in NXT.
Yeah.
And based on the NXT shows I've been to, never has there been anybody in NXT as over as Nakamura.
Yeah.
And then he gets even his called to the main roster. So he gets called the night after WrestleMania 33. he gets called to the main roster. And the segment against The Miz, or with The Miz. It's like, oh, okay, this is just coming off the stuff between Miz and Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
You got the King of Strong Style versus someone who Daniel Bryan says is a soft wrestler, essentially.
Soft style, yeah, totally.
That's
Makes
interesting.
sense. Yeah.
I would like to see that. The Miz gets drafted to Raw, and then Nakamura is in like an endless feud with Dolph, and he doesn't have his first match until like a month and a half after he debuts.
Right.
It takes all the steam out of his main roster push immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. I mean, and yeah, he won the Rumble. He was in a program with AJ Styles. It's not like he hasn't accumulated accolades and titles and stuff. But like the Rumble win was like the one chance I felt like he had to get to the main event in WWE. And then they did the heel turn with them, and that was just all about hitting AJ Styles in the front area. There wasn't much more to it than that.
No, there was nothing there.
It's like it's another instance where it feels like Vince McMahon doesn't know who this wrestler is and doesn't know how to best utilize their strengths.
You know, dude, it's crazy. One of the wrestlers we know Vince is closest with and has always valued most is The Undertaker. And Undertaker, for whatever else he doesn't have, that dude was able to maintain his mystique until he retired, basically, you know, like because he always kept it. Well, mystique is a very interesting thing because it can benefit a wrestler so much. That little bit of mystery to you, that little bit, that air of like the unknown. And Shinsuke had that. He was sort of like a punk rock version of that. You know what I mean? It's like he came off like a rock star.
Oh, absolutely.
And when his music would hit, dun, 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 oh my God, people just flipped because it was so good.
Well, here's the thing too. In NXT, his entrance, his music, all that, the presentation, perfect.
Right, yeah.
And what do they have to do when he gets brought to the main roster?
Meddle with
it's
it.
not a massive change.
Yeah.
But they change it.
They changed it, yeah. Yeah.
For no reason.
The details
other than probably
matter.
like Vince didn't like it.
The details matter. Yeah.
They do absolutely matter.
When Aleister Black came up, they added the creaking. When Ricochet came up, they added the choo-choo-choo-choo. And when Shinsuke, they meddled with it. And Vince McMahon, for having as much appreciation for The Undertaker, is this The Undertaker? Never really grasped the power of mystique and just how much you can capture the imagination of the fans with that. That was Shinsuke Nakamura. He really connected with the fans because this guy was just everything cool. This dude was simply cool. And he communicated through body language, through movement, through his speech as well, through his look. It all just connected. And Vince McMahon had no clue how to harness that the way Triple H did in NXT. And so I'm looking forward to seeing Shinsuke under Triple H, who understands how to utilize that. Now, the question is, this is going to be the big question for like a lot of people on this list, man, is can he turn them around after being on main roster under Vince McMahon for so long? That's a big question.
It is. It really is. It really is. I mean, I think there are a lot of wrestlers on this list that I think fans are just waiting for that moment where they see, oh, this is going to be it. This is going to be where they get the push, you know? This is where they get the storyline that's going to take them to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think once people see that, they'll be all in.
Yeah. You know a moment I always go back to, especially because this might have been Triple H, so who knows? But when Triple H was champion, like in 2014, and Bray Wyatt and his family was there, and he touches the title, and people just put it together because like he wasn't even there to like discuss title situations, but he found himself standing face to face with Triple H. And he looks at the title and everybody, it's like, oh God, he's going to go after that thing. That's cool. And then of course they drop the ball.
Anything. Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere.
They drop the ball. I could see Shinsuke having a moment kind of like that. Like they kind of tease out with Roman months ago, and then they never picked it back up.
Exactly. He tagged with Riddle for a couple weeks. And then that was it. We haven't really seen him on TV much, said. You know, that they could have easily catapulted him, Nakamura, to a title match. Yeah. You know, because he came out like the week after WrestleMania and said to the Usos, you injured my tag team partner. I'm coming after you. And Roman, I'm coming after you too.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it.
It'll be interesting to see if any of this idea of, hey, we gotta turn them around after being so long sort of stuck in the mire. If we're gonna get any, even if it's a slight rebrand. I mean, I love how they've done this as not a wrestler, but as a title, the U.S. title, how they've same thing with Kevin Owens. He's getting these video packages. If there's going to be sort of like a reintroduction, a renewed importance placed on these people, and how that's going to manifest itself aesthetically, attitude-wise, performance-wise, if there's going to be any direction in terms of, hey, we got to get you out of this. We got to turn it around. Here's how we're going to do it. I can't think of a better segue for somebody who might need that than the next one. Number 6. Pete Dunne, a.k.a. Butch. Let me just say this real quick. In talking about turning somebody around, this might be easier than a Shinsuke Nakamura, simply because Shinsuke is Shinsuke. I don't know how much more you can really change him up. Butch is a completely different person than Pete Dunne.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And at first Sheamus and Ridge tried to make it sound like they have known Pete Dunne for a number of years, even though it's just completely implausible. So yeah, it's easy enough where he just gets tired of their bullshit, Sheamus and Ridge, and reclaims his own identity. Because the two of you have been calling me Butch for years. I can't stand that name, and right now I can't stand either of you. I'm going to break both your fingers and hit you both with bitter ends. And it won't be Pete Dunne probably, but it'll be, the equivalent of Io Sky, something close to Pete Dunne that's recognizable enough that might have some more importance to him than some random name that he would have gotten with Vince McMahon. Pete Dunne was hugely over in NXT UK. People loved him in NXT. You put him in the ring, you let him put on awesome. I mean, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. You put him in the ring, let him put on awesome matches. He doesn't have to talk a ton. He says so much with a little shrug. Like he communicates so well through body language that even if he's not the best promo, I think he's a decent enough promo, that he speaks, he's exceptionally fluent in the universal language of professional wrestling.
Yeah, right.
And he communicates just well, just fine that way. If he can drop a promo here and there to flesh out his character and his story in between matches, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's frustrating when you see someone who has had success, championship success, wherever he's gone. Every place Pete Dunne has ever been, he's won a title pretty much. And then he gets called the main roster as basically, I know he's embraced the character, he's made what he can out of it. He's a henchman. It's what he is, and he's been taking a ton of L's. When he's one of the best wrestlers in the world, Triple H, I think, realizes it. How great would it be if Pete Dunne, when he breaks away from Sheamus and Ridge, says, "Well, time to make a name for myself." Yeah, referencing what Triple H told him in the first UK tournament.
Yeah, it'd be even cooler if British Strong Style got back together.
That would be great.
Once the dust is settled on whatever is going to turn out with this Tyler Bate and Del Boy stuff, you get that settled for continuity's sake in UK, and then Pete Dunne says, "Hey, Ridge and Sheamus, I don't need you. I got my own dudes," and cue the Mustache Mountain music and it's Burt and Del Boy. That could be sick. I would love to see that, and give us that promo from whatever it was, 2014 or 15 or whatever it was when we got that Progress promo about them coming to WWE, which is what they wanted to do.
Yeah, that was great.
Let's move on. I think this dude should be way higher, man. Number 5. Bob Roode. Now, the reason why I say I think it should be higher is because there is nobody lower on this list. Nobody at a worse point on this list. Nobody who has had a worse call-up on this list than Bobby Roode, who...
He has the deepest hole to get out of.
His
he
hole
absolutely
is
does.
So deep, man.
Bob Roode's work in NXT, I thought, was exceptional.
Yeah, that was really good.
Granted, I wasn't I didn't watch a lot of Impact. anywhere between 2002 and like a year and a half ago. So I missed his run there for the most part. I'm familiar with what he did, but it's not like I have a great wealth of knowledge. But when he showed up in NXT, I know his first promo was essentially his mission statement. I'm going to have tech CEOs sit in front row, blah, 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 blah. They didn't really follow through with that, but that didn't bother me because I appreciated that in NXT they booked him as a heel. That wasn't a cowardly heel.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't a dominant monster heel either. He was a tactician.
Mm-hmm.
He knew how to force his opponents to make mistakes, and he would capitalize on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciated that because far too often WWE they have two paths they take with heels. It's either a chicken shit heel or a monster heel. Yeah. Very rarely they find any sort of middle ground. I thought they did a really good job with that. Or Triple H did a good job with that with Bobby Roode in NXT, and then he got called main roster, and his character was his theme song.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that was it for the longest time.
Yeah.
He came out there, he smiled, he did the pose to Glorious, everybody sang along, but there was nothing there. Him and Dolph, when they formed the Dirty Dogs, it was fun, but you kind of knew 90% of what they were doing was just them, trying to make something of it. I don't really feel like it's been a long time since Bob Roode has gotten any sort of push whatsoever. Basically since his call up, maybe when he was U.S. champion.
Yeah. When he was U.S. champion. I am currently searching for the last time he had a singles win. The last win he had was in January of this year. And it was of course it was a multi-man. It was I think it said Cruz and the Dirty Dogs versus like the Mysterios. Here we go. So the last singles win that Bobby Roode has had was February 28th, 2020.
2020?
February 28th, 2020 was the last singles win. He's
gone 2.5 years without a singles win.
His singles matches are rarities. He had September of that year of 2020. He lost to Drew McIntyre on Raw. Recently he has had a lot of singles matches, all defeats. Mainly house shows. Lately, he's in a thing right now. Apparently, I think he's on Main Event. Wow. No, he's Saturday night's Main Event. That's just a house show circuit. He lost a lot recently to Veer, and he lost once to Amos. Riddle beat him in a live show in March. Of course, there was that NXT match with Braun Breaker in March as well that he lost that. Otherwise. That's his last singles win was in February of 2020.
2.5 years ago. That is crazy.
That was against Kofi.
I mean, he's a really talented guy. He's a good promo, but you see him now when he was on WWE TV and just feels like, and I don't know him, this is just a supposition based on seeing his work. It just kind of seems like his passion's been sucked out, Yeah,
right.
He when he got called up, I said he was doing great work in NXT. I think a lot of us were really excited to see what he was going to do in the main roster because he knew his character in NXT. He knew who that character was, and he embodied that every time he was on screen. Yeah. And he gets called up, and they just flush all that down the toilet. Your character's Mr. Glorious now.
Yeah,
that's it.
He's been a dirty dog since September of 2019.
Wow.
Yeah, he was in the Dirty Dogs since September of 2019. And then before that, he was on a big losing streak. Yeah,
well, he was in a tag team with Chad Gable for a bit.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, they were tag champs.
Where's that? I don't even know where that is. Anyways, so yeah, dude's in a big old hole. And hopefully under Triple H, he can become what he was before. I think here's the thing. I think it's easier for this guy, maybe even than Butch, because like with Butch, it's like okay. He's kind of over. The fans kind of like what he's doing. So, like, do you really want to? Nobody knows about Bob Roode anymore. Like he is, he's nothing. He's like a blank slate. So you could revamp him to quite a degree, and I think people would be like, okay, I'll give this a shot. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he joins or forms a faction. I don't know what you do with the guy, but I kind of feel like you can do a lot with him, and people will be willing to take a look because he's just background. He's just background at this point.
Well, I mean, I guess the problem is too, if people for the last 4 or 5 years are used to seeing him as background, it might be difficult for him to be seen as anything but background, because he is in such a massive hole at this juncture.
I think the thing is, I don't disagree, but I think he has a better shot. So like, when Jinder became champion, it was like, oh, well, that's not going to happen. And then it happened. And they sort of they put a lot of cool shit around him, and it's Jinder. Jinder's very entertaining. Not a lot of people like that title run because he just always was booked as like a chicken shit heel. But we always found him entertaining. I don't know if that was a great idea to make him champion. But I feel like Bobby Roode probably has. I think you could probably pull the same stunt there, except people would probably buy it a bit more than maybe Jinder because he is a former NXT champion. A couple of cool video packages. A couple of decent promos, and people will come around to it. But, time will tell on if that's the case. He's 45 years old, but again, I don't know how much Triple H cares about, we have to be pushing the 25-year-olds now,
Yeah, that's one thing I wondered, too, with some of the NXT call-ups who are already, well into their 30s, whether Vince thought, well, they're kind of old to just be starting the main roster careers. We'll just kind of keep them around as good hands, good workers.
Yeah.
Which is a disservice to these wrestlers who have built a good, solid brand for themselves. And yeah, they know how to work.
Yeah.
And maybe Vince should have utilized their talents to actually tell stories and build up new stars as opposed to just, hey, we'll put you in a tag team or we'll have you job out at live events,
Well, let's talk about somebody who's been in a tag team. Let's talk about somebody who has jobbed out to live events. We're talking about number 4.
For
Shayna Baszler. Now, she was kind of the heir apparent to Asuka. She was sort of the next dominant champion that NXT saw after Asuka.
And actually, she, in terms of combined days as NXT Women's Champion, she passed Asuka. 548 combined days as champ. I believe she was the first 2-time NXT Women's Champion. Yeah, she was definitely booked as after Asuka, the next dominant force in the NXT Women's division. Absolutely.
Now, she's had a bit better of a run, I would say, than Bobby Roode. I honestly think if COVID wasn't a thing, she'd have been a Raw Women's Champion.
Entirely possible.
Because, she had that dominant performance at Elimination Chamber. They debuted her. I always thought, I know it was a bit on the corny side, I thought it was cool as shit. She came out and just ripped a hole in Becky's neck.
Yeah.
She bit her and there was blood everywhere. I thought that was a pretty effective way to debut her. But seemingly, Vince wanted to change things up because COVID hit and he didn't want like a heel champion. Maybe that was the case, or she wasn't flashy enough. I don't know what the deal was, but like everything else, Vince McMahon, he drops the ball. He blames the talent, and then the talent just sort of gets buried. Now, she had a terrific run as tag champion with Nia Jax. I thought that was pretty decent. She has had plenty of opportunities to stand out, but one thing that stands out to me is a conversation she said that she had with Vince McMahon where he said, don't worry about your work rate. This is main roster. We don't worry about that here. Well, Shayna, I don't know if work rate is the right term, but like she was just a brutalizer in the ring, She would just viciously tap people out. And that just didn't seem to be on Vince's agenda. And so she ended up doing like some comedy stuff. She was feuding with Lily for a spell. None of it really took advantage of what she brings best. And that's just a wrecker, Yeah. She just destroys people in the ring. And maybe Triple H will go back to that and reintroduce Shayna. I don't think she needs a hell of a lot of like reintroduction or anything.
No, I don't
People
think so
know
either.
what she can do. And I don't know what it's going to be for her. I don't know what store you put her in where she can sort of start to come back up and people can believe in her. Do you have any ideas for that? Go ahead.
Yeah. Have her feud with Ronda. And she comes out of that on the winning side of things. If I guess you could I guess the issue would be if they turn Ronda heel, expecting Ronda and Becky at Mania next year. They might not want Ronda to take a whole lot, if any, losses, apart from maybe one to Liv Morgan coming up here. But I think people want to cheer for Shayna because, as you said, she was not given the best creative, but she did what she could with all of it. And she made a lot of that entertaining when it probably shouldn't have been. Because I think she was in some comedy stuff, but I think she's got pretty good comedic timing.
Oh, she does.
And I think her delivery, she's funny, and her delivery is really good. There's a lot of stuff that they gave her that was, what is this? She made it something.
Yeah, she really adapted to sports entertainment. She did.
Yeah, and I think you put her in a feud with Ronda. I think that's something a lot of people want to see. You have her come out the winning end of that, and then you go on from there.
Maybe I'm just conditioned for this, but I'm trying to think of something more realistic. And I only say that because, like, they're paying Ronda a shit ton of money, and as much as I would love for that to happen, and you would think that Ronda would probably be cool with that.
Oh yeah.
Because they are like best friends. I feel like they probably are eyeing Ronda versus Becky at Mania next year. That would seem to be the case because we never got that proper.
Okay, how about this?
Mania
how about
thing.
this? You spend some time building up Shayna after Ronda loses to Becky next year at Mania. Then you have Shayna step up to Ronda, and pretty much especially if Ronda's like, all right, I've done what I wanted to do. I don't know what her contract situation is, but if she's like, all right, I'm looking to phase out wrestling.
Yeah.
Have Shayna be the one that sends her packing from WWE, That could be cool, and that would be huge for Shayna.
It'd be cool. It'd be really cool. Have them win the tag titles together, and then Shayna turns on Ronda. And then they have their big match, and Shayna wins that. Another way you could do it, you know what I'd love to see happen? Have Triple H initiate a good Queen of the Ring. Or what they call it this past time?
Queen's Crown?
Crown, yeah. A real meaty tournament with like 16 people. 32, well, there's not going to be 32 people, but like 16 people. You do qualifiers to get in, or maybe some people get buys or whatever.
Minimum match length 12 minutes.
Have it be across all three brands. There's 32 people across all three brands, I think. But
but
you're
give the
exactly
matches
right.
time.
Give the matches a ton of time. Have it be, the G1 for the men and women, the King of the Ring and the Queen of the Ring. Bring that back. And have Shayna just wreck everybody through that, That'd be awesome. That'd be great. Do that.
That would be great.
Yeah, let's move on. Next up, number 3. LA Max Dupree Knight. Max Dupree.
Yeah.
Or LA Knight, or whatever they're going to call him.
I mean, he's already benefiting because apparently he wanted nothing more to do with this maximum maleable model stuff. And then Vince was like, all right, you're done with it. And then Triple H comes in, takes over creative, and then LA Knight's back as Max Dupree. So, whatever qualms he had about that character or that gimmick creatively, apparently he must have had a conversation with Triple H about it. And Triple H put his mind at ease, or at least said, all right, I'll listen to what you have to say. To try to either make you more enthusiastic about this or make changes so it works more for your philosophy of whatever. I don't know, but evidently it was something he didn't really want to do. He seemingly is a bit more comfortable with it now.
You and I, in the past, and even these days, we got a couple different things going. We like doing the comedy skits. It's like we always had a good time doing it. Could you imagine if doing these comedy skits, instead of you and I, sitting down in front of a Word doc and coming up with it ourselves, I send it to you, you send it back to me, I send it back to you, then we improv a little bit. Could you imagine if just from on high, some 77-year-old man was sending us comedy skits for us to do? How incredibly frustrating that would be, as opposed to somebody saying, hey, Steven Larson, this is what we want to do. What do you guys think would work here? You know what I mean? A collaborative process. Yeah. I don't know that this is the case, but it wouldn't shock me if that was the transformation that Max Dupree maybe needed to go back to doing the maximum. Or maybe Triple H said, hey, listen, you better start doing this shit. You're under contract. No,
we're going to send you back to NXT.
Yeah, exactly. He'd probably be happy with that. He was super over in NXT.
He was super over in NXT, I know.
Yeah, no, I was kind of surprised to see Max Dupree back, and I'm kind of curious.
Really surprised, yeah.
where he's going to go. He was so over at NXT, man.
It's not like he was given anything to get him over either.
No, a microphone.
He got himself over.
A microphone. That's all he needed.
Yeah.
A microphone. And he can have any crowd. And I wonder if we're going to see maybe a bit more of that, or maybe if it's just like Vince had like 4 different things he wanted him to do, and he was like, none of this speaks to me. Like, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. I'm supposed to whisper talk? What is that? Yeah. That's so antithetical to everything I do.
Have you ever heard me drop a promo? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very loud. Yeah, dummy. You know.
Yeah.
So,
and he wants to be a close talker?
Yeah. Right.
It's like Vince finally watched Seinfeld.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You know what's funny is that he was, regardless, that's the thing about Max Dupree. He was fucking funny doing the close talking stuff.
Oh,
I thought that shit was funny. And you know, he comes out of the locker room in an interview, and they have evidently a mic just like right here next to him because you can hear every little hint of breath that he had. Mm-hmm. I thought he was pretty funny. But yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to see. Is he going to remain Max Dupree, or is he going to be LA Knight, or is he going to stay with Maximum Male Models, or is he not going to stay with Maximum?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we don't know where this story is headed. I do feel like if Vince was still in charge of creative, it would just kind of be the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. But maybe the one thing that LA Knight, Max Dupree wanted was direction. Yeah. And I don't mean like Vince there directing the segments. Mm-hmm. He wants to know where the story's going.
Where is it going?
Where this character is going. Yeah, you know, and if whether Triple H has a vision for Maximum Male Models or not, you at least get the sense that Triple H has a vision of what he wants main roster product to look like, and maybe that was enough for him. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm curious about this conversation they had that brought LA Knight back to do in Maximum Male Models. I'm curious.
It was probably akin to the conversation Triple H had with Kevin Owens that time before he gave him the Universal title.
That's a good segue, Steve.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, perfect. Number 2. I didn't even know Kevin Owens was next. Number 2. Kevin Owens. That's right. This man was literally handed the Universal title by Triple H, and then Brock and Goldberg came around and spoiled that run. But now Vince isn't in charge anymore. You got to think Triple H sees this guy. I'm telling you, if anybody can be, and I know I'm going to get people in the comments, there's no other Stone Cold. If anybody's going to be another Stone Cold Steve Austin,
it's Kevin Owens.
Kevin Owens, man. He was hot coming into the coming to the main roster, man. Ooh.
Yeah. And he's had runs where the closest they got to the Stone Cold thing it was this feud against Roman, because by and large that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. It was pretty good, yeah.
It was pretty good. But you know, he finishes that up, and then through the summer and spring and this is no disrespect to Ezekiel, because that storyline was a lot of fun.
Oh, that shit was funny.
And the two of them made a lot of something that probably shouldn't have worked, and they made it work. Mm-hmm. Kevin Owens should be a main event player on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. He's that talented.
Yeah, he is.
And, you know, Triple H views him as a main event player on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And so, we saw the video package at SummerSlam. Anything you give Kevin Owens, he makes the absolute most of it. Mm-hmm. You put him in a main event program. It's weird, like, after he has the main events night 1 of WrestleMania against Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Such a huge moment, the return of Stone Cold.
Massive.
He and Austin had a fun match.
Yeah.
That the first thing they think of is, we're going to put you with Elias's younger brother.
I know. Yeah.
Rather than using that match against Stone Cold to catapult him further up the card.
Yeah. I know. God, dude, the things they could do. You know what could have been cool? I don't know why I just thought about this, but like, I feel like WWE needs to take a couple more risks, man. Could you imagine if after the Stone Cold bit, Kevin Owens says, you know what? He makes an excuse for whatever happened with Stone Cold. And I can't think of a better wrestler to debut his own title the way Taz did with the FTW title. Mm-hmm. You know how Stone Cold used to have the broken skull, the smoking skull title? What if Kevin Owens debuted that as his title? And he carried, because he was a prize fighter. He was the guy. He brought in proudly the NXT title, and he's got his own title, and nobody could beat him for that. And eventually that title ends up with its own prestige to the point where, hey, I'm going to put this up against, a Roman or a Lashley or whatever. And he works his way back up. I just sort of came up with that at the top of my head. But there's so many fun things you could do in the world of wrestling because you just get to script it all. You just get to do whatever you want with it. Mm-hmm. And Kevin Owens is the kind of guy that you could script anything for him and he'll run with it. Just script something really, really cool for him, and he'll be right back on track.
Absolutely.
Damn it, I like that idea now, and they're not. It's too weird.
Use it for W. Steve W. Have a Cheeseburger have his own title.
Oh shit, that's a good idea. All right, I'm gonna do that. Anyways, before I go rebook W. Steve W., let's talk about number one. Now, it is entirely possible that Sasha Banks and Naomi have already debuted on SmackDown last night.
Yes.
But we're filming this before that.
Yeah, it's Thursday. It's Thursday right now, August 4th.
Yeah, but according to the Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer, he said they're trying to get them back. Triple H, obviously, big fan of both. And I don't see why, this wouldn't be able to happen unless they're just both like, I don't really want to do it.
Well, I mean, it was WrestlingNews.co that reported that they were coming back.
Oh, it was a done deal. That's right. Yeah.
Because after Sasha and Naomi walked out of Raw because they weren't happy with their creative with the tag titles, that Raj Giri reported that Sasha had been released. I believe it was Meltzer, maybe some others said that they had heard that at least that Sasha's legal team, her lawyers, were trying to get her released. Whether, WWE never announced anything about any releases, any of that stuff. And then towards the end of Vince's tenure, we got reports that they were trying to do something to get him back, and then that seemingly intensified once Triple H took over. And now, if WrestlingNews.co is to be believed, they could have returned already as of Friday, or maybe it'll be somewhere down the line. Yeah. Who knows? It seems pretty evident that Sasha was in NXT. I always remember that scene in Breaking Ground where Triple H tells Sasha and Bayley they're main eventing with their Iron Woman match. I would guess that Sasha has pretty good rapport with Triple H.
Yeah.
And would feel like if I have issues with my creative, I can take that to Triple H and there'll be a discussion. As opposed to if I did that to Vince and Vince just says, well, we're gonna do it my way.
Yeah. No, you're gonna do it this way. Yeah. God damn it.
So, if creative satisfaction is primary on her list in terms of her being happy wrestling in WWE, and she feels like, well, Triple H can provide that far more than Vince ever could, why not give this another shot?
Yeah. Yep. No, absolutely. I agree. Some people out there might have questions in terms of, well, who should be worried maybe now that Vince is gone. We actually talked about that, not as an actual list, but as part of our Ask Stephen Larson series over at the Friendo Club TV channel. You can check that out. Maybe I'll post a link up here if I remember to do that. Did we have any honorable mentions here, or is this pretty much it?
There was a couple. Of course, Johnny Gargano. John.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible Triple H assuming the role of head of creative could be the deciding factor in John's choice about where to go, whether it goes to AEW or WWE. It's entirely possible he could have made this list. There's a couple other names that I thought up that their fortunes might improve now that Triple H is in charge. Doudrop.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Cedric Alexander.
Oh, yeah. Triple H put his arm around him and said, I'm going to sign this guy.
We're going to sign this guy after his match with Kota Ibushi. I know Cedric and Mustafa Ali have been tagging on Main Event. Given their history, going back to 205 Live, have them form a tag team and push them. Imagine the matches they would have against the Usos.
That'd be killer.
It would be incredible.
Yeah. You got Tegan Knox here as well.
Yes, Tegan Knox. Yes,
I got the list right here. Right. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there was a couple other that we, there was one others. There was one other, Gunther. He's already the Intercontinental Champion, but Triple H loves the guy, so I don't know. Maybe he'll be featured.
He'll beat Roman in 2 weeks. Who knows?
More, yeah. Yeah. Listen, this guy right here is the future. He's the future face of the company. This young talent. Anyways, that's going to do it for Count Out today. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Check out one of our other videos. And until next time, we'll see you over there.
Goodbye.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Stone Cold Steve Austin impersonator Phil McDonald, here to tell you to go support Going In Raw and Friendo Club at patreon.com/Steven Larson. They got bonus episodes, ad-free audio, a weekly newsletter rounding up the week in wrestling news, and a bunch more. Patreon.com/Steven Larson. Go support or get hit with a stunner.